I welcome the debate. We will support the motion, and we have proposed an amendment to the motion as well. Am I in order to move that?
Be dealt with after the Minister's amendment.
Thank you very much. So we welcome the motion, and I don't doubt that the Minister is doing his best, to be fair. And I think if we can take some of the heat out of this debate, and it has become quite personalised, it has to be said, of late. And I know we all have to robustly defend our positions in this House, and that is right and proper. However, the personalised nature of the debate doesn't give comfort to the people who are on the housing list in my constituency. And if I was to characterise their experience at present, it's such that historically, if you were on a housing list, you were applying for a house from a rented house or from a family home, and you had that guarantee of a roof over your head. But now, increasingly, and the numbers speak volumes, we're seeing more and more people coming to us as public representatives in desperation because they're being forced out of or given notices to quit, and they have absolutely no place to go because there is a lack of supply. And I think that is acknowledged. So I don't want to politicise this debate. I do acknowledge the fact that the government is seeking to do with it what it can through the Housing for All policy. One of my worries, Ceann Comhairle, is that if I take towns like Mitchelstown, for instance, in County Cork, which is a typical rural town with an agricultural hinterland where there's a phenomenal demand now for housing, and capacity to build houses is also there. However, with this demand and this pent-up demand that is there is a major issue in relation to the ability to provide essential services like water and wastewater treatment facilities. For a couple of years now, I and others, my constituency colleagues, all of us have been advocating for an increase in the capacity for wastewater and for water services, because right now, as we speak, you cannot build houses in the town of Mitchelstown because Irish Water will tell the local authority that the capacity isn't there. So it is all well and good for us to talk about, this supply that is coming on stream now. Lands are being zoned through county development plans, and we're seeing theoretically, wonderful opportunities emerging on the horizon. But the pinch point is the fact that if you do not have the capacity to deliver infrastructure, the basic infrastructure, such as is the case in Mitchelstown, then your policy fails. And until such time as the metal is grasped on that issue, I suspect that towns like Mitchelstown and my own native town, Mallow, where, for instance, there's an application, an SHD application for 299 residential units before on board Planala as we speak, where there's a decision date due for the 23rd of this month. I can guarantee you absolutely that Irish Water and the local authority will turn around and say, yeah, you may, or in the event that they do get planning permission, you may have received your planning, but you can't get that commencement until such time as there's capacity to deal with water and infrastructure. And those are the issues that, if they were dealt with as a top priority, I think you could pick off a lot of low-hanging fruit, Minister. I think you know that anyway, and I do know for a fact that you're very much aware of the infrastructural issues relating to Mitchelstown in particular, and I understand that you may be visiting in the not-too-distant future, and I would ask you to use your good offices to lean in to Irish Water to, if some capacity was delivered in Mitchelstown, I think it would have a tremendous effect, as it would throughout the country. So we do support the motion put forward by Sinn Féin tonight. What I would like to talk about in the few short minutes that are open to me as well is the tenant in situ scheme that Labour has been advocating for. If you could lift the cap on local authorities' ability to purchase when there is a HAP or a RAS, because some people are still on the RAS scheme, supported tenant in situ. The limit on local authorities buying second-hand homes, competing with first-time buyers, these limits are having consequences whereby people who are getting social housing support through HAP are then being evicted by smaller landlords who are leaving the housing market. Again, that's well signalled to the Minister. But because of these limits, there is an unintended consequence of forcing people who require social housing support into homelessness. And that's what I spoke about at the top of my intervention here tonight. I would ask the Minister to look at greater flexibility around a tenant in situ scheme and allow local authorities to purchase housing where there is a tenant in situ getting social housing support. I'm sure the Minister will have an answer to that. I would welcome a reply, and if the Minister is favourable to that, then I think that would be good too. The other thing is the Cree Conaha issue. My understanding, and I'm asking the Minister perhaps if he is responding to the debate,
But I've taken note of your points.
Thank you, Ceann Corla. Thank you, Minister. I just want to put it on the record that when I did ask the Minister about this scheme, I asked the Minister on the 5th of the 4th, actually. Today I received a reply to ask the Minister for Housing, Local Government and Heritage if he will report on the Housing for All for a new Cree Conaha fund to increase owner-occupier apartment development in city centres. I know it's a city-focused scheme. The Minister, in his reply, and I quote Ceann Corla, said, "My department is currently working with the Housing Agency on finalising the operational basis for the new fund and expect to engage prospective proposers in a call for proposals in Q2 2022. So I just, if the Minister or his officials are listening, if I could get greater clarity as to when that is actually happening, because I think that would facilitate a lot of over the shop, over the commercial premises type opportunities to turn those into residential. If such a scheme, what is not known out there is the number of schemes that are available for towns. And the biggest impediment to somebody in a town or a city converting from what was a commercial premises into a residential premises, where they are maybe intergenerational owners, is they're not going to make the leap towards converting to residential with all of the attendant grants and so on that are available, because the capital cost of doing so is still too high. They may be asset rich but cash poor, and they're at pains to take the risk of borrowing. I think there are hundreds of towns throughout the country where we've lost capacity on the main street, where shops have closed, commercial premises have closed, and there are many people who would like to live in towns where you would free up a lot of houses where people are downsizing and want to be closer to services on the main street. And I don't think people perceive that there's anything there for them to be able to do that. And I think what we need are more schemes that are fast-tracked, and that there's some sort of a treatment in planning that can facilitate that and allow for better funding of that as well. On our own residential tenancies Bill 2021, there remains a huge imbalance in power between renters and landlords. Our Tenants' Rights Bill focuses on issues relating to quality of rental accommodation, and we need to get solid commitments when it comes to security of tenure. And that is ultimately the bedrock upon which renters' rights are based. It seems to me, if I go back to the issues that I spoke about in relation to Mitchelstown and Mallow, for instance, as two examples of two typical towns in this country, the capacity constraints, the infrastructural constraints will require that more people will be in rented accommodation for longer. And that trend, that market trend for rent is going upwards. HAP, is not meeting pace with demand, and there needs to be some sort of rights-based approach for tenants for the duration of this housing crisis, and that's what we advocated for in that bill, and I would ask that, that bill would be looked at again. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.